excited.
It was perfect. That was perfect.
Everything I've ever wanted in all my years of podcasting.
There's nobody besides the people in my actual like intimate circle in life whose voice I've heard or whose life I know more about than Kevin Smith.
Holy shit! Are you fucking kidding me?
This has been so hard for me not to talk to you about.
Oh my God! Episode 37 could be the end of Long Walk Short. No, that's not true. It would just be scrubbed. It would be the lost episode. It would be the episode that would keep me from ever being a Long Walk Short Drink fan. Because we'd only have the first 20 minutes of the episode.
Yeah.
And that's it. And I'd be like, nope, I can't hear every goddamn minute. Then nope. Nope.
Oh man. Well, I'm glad you did figure this part out though, because new to the YouTube channel stuff is we've always posted the podcast on YouTube, but now the last couple, when I post it to YouTube, it actually has the matching video, which has never really happened. So this will allow for that, which is kind of fun.
I hope that is the case. I hope that this puts a video file on our channel that we'd be able to use. Man, that fucking rattled me. Like, what does that say about me that rattled me that much? Like, I mean, I exist in a world. I'm very inundated in technology and in the digital, life stuff. And so I know what trolling is, and I know, but man, that really affected me. Shit.
It was directed at you, at us. I didn't actually.
No, I think it was more like of the show. Like I think, like this is such a safe space for me, and like it's so important to me, and for it to just be like all of that. It's Twinkie, like confronting Pumps for like mocking you. Like, we do not do that here. That is not what this is about. Like. As soon as I saw that, I'm just like, that's exactly what I felt. Oh, man. I channeled my inner Twinkie.
That's a good thing. That's always a good thing.
Oh, man.
Yeah, going Twinkie again. We're done.
What's great is that works too, though.
Yeah.
Fucking A.
Fucking call me Twinkie. I said, don't fucking call me Twinkie.
Oh man,
that's
fun. I don't have to like destroy my voice doing it, which is fantastic. So, so before that fucking troll, so you were talking about, you had given a little rundown about why this is of all of our past guests that we've had a string of like guests, and should we just like start completely over? I don't know. We were like.
Yeah, I mean, we could. I can use some of that. We can cut out the thing. We can explain, what happened. Yeah. I can stitch them together. I mean, I'm not going to like try to make it seem like that never happened, but we could use some of that. There was also a lot of inside baseball there too. We could just pretend. I don't know. We don't need to pretend.
No, there's no pretending.
Let's
say got controlled, and it really threw me off.
Yeah, well, let's just say welcome to Long Walk Short Drink 37.
37 in a row?
In a row. Take two, kind of. We talked for a good half an hour on a live stream, and then we got trolled hardcore by a couple of just...
No, it was one. I guarantee you it's one kid that's got like 17 YouTube accounts that just... As soon as we would block one of them, he would just come in on the next one. It was too... Like, there's... Or... I mean, if there was more than one person taking that much, like coordinating like that, because how could like you block one and then another one pops in and they're like, hey, gay people, And you're like, fuck you, blocking you. Not that doesn't happen here. That's not what this is about, you know?
No,
blocking
we
you.
won't have it.
And the next one is like, I bet you got a tiny dick. Let me see it. No,
Jesus.
not what that is about. And then the last one was like, I bet your ass looks like a full moon. That's why it's
What?
called a moon, you dumbass. Blocked.
Wow.
And
That
yeah.
person must have an awfully sad life.
So I mean, if it's got to be one person, because if it's more than that, for our tiny little podcast, that honestly, like, our fans become part of the podcast. Like they're like we are this little self-serving circle of like 8 people. So if there's more than one person trolling that little circle of people on the vast ocean of the internet, like, that's pathetic. Get a fucking life. Like, you're gonna, like, it's not even, I'm not even gonna give you the satisfaction of thinking that you ruined this time. Like, that you didn't ruin it.
Oh no, we're gonna have
Get
a
a
blast.
fucking life. Like, just get a life.
Or do some. Well, I'm talking to them. They're not hearing us now, but because we found a way to do this a private stream instead of live. So
Right.
So we may or may not, in the future, do public live streams, but we do. The plan is still to put them up on YouTube as the live hangouts, so you can see the visuals and all that stuff, which is fun.
Yeah.
And now Palmer has figured out how to. He's got some kind of soundboard thing rigged up there in Ohio, to where he can play little sound clips like the "Don't Call Me Twinkie."
The ice is gonna break.
That one.
Right over the speakers, like on demand. As many
There's
times
a
as we want.
little icon that comes up too, like our little long walk short drinks head pulse.
Yeah. Well, if I didn't, it's just because I have our camera muted, so that's it's just like when Moto mutes his camera, so we see his like static image.
I like it. It's good. It's like the show talking.
Yeah, absolutely. So. Yeah, and that's still a work in progress, which is fantastic. But you had mentioned like Mr. J and how just how inspirational his plan, his progress and his path to health, how inspirational that was and how that's inspired you. Like, I started the same here. I finally started walking this week. So
awesome. This health stats?
Yeah, all the health stats are is I've walked. Let's see. I got up at like 6 on Monday and walked 3 miles, and then
Jesus!
I got up at yesterday. I got up way early. I got up at like 5 and walked another 3 miles. So I found this loop. There's this really awesome loop around my neighborhood. That's like a perfect 5K. It's like, well, it's not perfect. 5K is like 3.2 miles. And this, I think that's right. And then this loop is 3.1 miles. So my goal is to just like keep walking that 4 days a week, 4 mornings a week, my mornings that I work from home. So Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. And then as long as I commit to that, then I know I can lose one of those and still be really doing a difference,
Yeah.
So if one of those doesn't work out, that's okay. It's not going to be the end of the world. 2 would be a problem. Like, I would have a problem if I had to lose 2 in a week. And then my goal is to do that as long as I can until winter finally comes, because it was 72 degrees yesterday. And
what? Oh my God.
It was crazy in Dayton yesterday. So once the winter finally comes and I can't, because some of the sidewalks can get kind of treacherous around these neighborhoods, and doing it at night. Once there's risk of ice, I'm not going to risk an injury. So I won't go outside.
The purpose,
right? And so, but my thing is I'll do that as long as I can, and then the short winter that we have, as soon as it breaks, I'm going to start.
The ice.
Hit it.
We don't have to do it. Wait, I gotta practice.
The ice is gonna break.
Once it breaks.
How perfect.
Yeah, that was perfect. Once it breaks, then we'll go. I'm going to start Couch to 5K over again, and then
very cool.
Get to where I can run that, and then or jog that. The slow plod that is my jog. and then just really focus on like just cutting that time down. And then once I get the time cut down, then increasing the distance. And yeah. So I mean, because the one thing that really stuck with me that Mr. J said is like running is like it is the lazy man's exercise. It's like easy. It's like the easiest thing to do.
I had never heard that before, but it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So I mean, you just go out your front door and start moving fast, and then do that long enough.
Or I think at all to some extent. I mean,
yeah.
For myself, because I have been very resistant to running. I never have enjoyed running. I never experienced a runner's high. I always just wanted to die. And so, but I do like to walk. And so it's been about a year now for me that I have been consciously like putting together like 30 minutes of brisk, like uncomfortable walking. I have to be uncomfortably fast walking to start the timer and stuff, and then stairs and all that shit. And then as I started to start to gradually build more healthy, I mean, that's like a year I've been doing that and enjoying that. That was not a chore. I just built it into my day, etc. And then as I was starting to kind of get into or just wanting to feel, for me, it's all motivated by getting older and wanting to feel better. I just like haven't felt good. I've had these health maladies and had my butt cut off and so much just like pelvic discomfort, like this sort of irritation in my just like groin area in this way that like I've tried medication. I try all kinds of stuff, and it's not just that, it's all kinds of stuff, but it sucks. And so some of that health stuff was like just to try to, I don't know, just because it wasn't because I wanted to lose weight, because I had enough times trying things.
Yeah.
It's like I've just never seen a difference in that from exercise, not a measurable or noticeable one. So I was at the point where I was doing it for health. I walked in that timed way for at least for almost a full year. And then I'd say like 3 months ago or so, I started to want to put together another additional half hour. So I would stay after work and walk in that same way, but in a dedicated way, like along the river, or it was mostly just that. And then I started to want to do karate in the garage. I was just like, I found that the physical movement helped in the with the pelvic discomfort in the way that less like sometimes baths would take a warm bath would alleviate that kind of uncomfortability. But that didn't only, I'm basic as a guy who's always trying to get shit done, taking a half an hour to take a bath to try and relax, it was kind of hard. And then the benefits would not last more than maybe another half an hour.
Right.
So I started to get to was like, well, if I just do that exercise, if I'm walking or whatever, I would literally like walk and have this kind of like mantra in my head.
Right.
Like, it's silly, but I don't mind sharing. It's I am healing, I am strong, I'm focused, I'm calm. Somehow that I just started to repeat that in my head, and that would help me like clear my head, and I would spend the same amount of time as I would in a bath, but I was moving, and then I found that actually provided longer relief. Like I would never could feel the pelvic discomfort while I was exercising because it's not that intense in general. The pain or whatever, if you call it that. I don't know. Yeah, like that stuff was helping that. And then I started to want to do more just like fun stuff than just walk. And so I decided to do karate in the garage and they cleared out space, which is so funny because it's funny anyway, but I didn't think of the phrase karate in the garage as funny like we've used it on the show for Let's Be Best Buddies. It was just literally like a space where I could clear a corner, hang a piece of like paper from the ceiling and like kick at it. And literally what I do, I thought of it like I thought about it a little bit off and on. The thing with the paper is an old Bruce Lee trick that I read where all his punches are snaps. He has this like, it's a quote that I saw in one of his screen tests where he's like, a karate punch is like an iron bar. You hit it, goes whang, or no, whang. Fuck, I fucked up the quote. It was whang. You hit a karate punch. Those are like, straight arm out. If you can picture in Karate Kid where like the Cobra Kai guy tries to punch Mr. Miyagi and it goes through the window.
Yeah.
Like you really like, you have your hands up, you commit to it. It's this kind of, it's kind of stupid in a way because it leaves one side of your body completely unguarded, but whatever. And then the other half of the Bruce Lee quote is like a kung fu punch is like an iron ball with an iron chain attached to it, and when you hit, you go whang, and it hurts inside. That's what he says. But so the thing is like you hit. It's the same way he does that 1-inch punch. Your whole body's behind it, and there's a kind of you aim at the paper, but you kind of punch just behind it and you snap. So you don't necessarily tear the paper down and stuff, and it just gives you something to shoot at, and it's this nice like pop when you hit it.
Right.
So what I really want is a heavy bag, because I know like that would be a hell of a workout to like hit something. And it'd be fucking great to hit.
Right.
But I figured I should demonstrate enough initiative to the bride to justify the expense of a heavy bag in the garage.
I think it's good that all of us are so spaced out, because I feel like with this like health thing that we're moving towards and karate in the garage and all this stuff, we would start fucking Fight Club is what would happen. It's like, because you're like, man, it's just like it'd be so great just to hit shit. And I'm like, man, it would be great just to hit shit. Like, that's how Fight Club started.
It is true. Oh man. Yeah. But for me, that whole thing is the karate in the garage. I thought about it, and then one day I was just like, I could just clean out that corner, and I did. Like after a little family walk with the dogs, I cleaned it out in like, I don't know, a few hours, and then suddenly I had the place to do karate in the garage.
Yeah,
and I'd go out, and that is exhausting to like. So even not actually hitting things, it's exhausting, but it's kind of fun and stupid, and I put on like the Bloodsport theme music and go to town.
That's awesome.
And I don't do that every day, but I mix it up. And so I have these things that keep me active, and they provide me with more relief and sometimes fun than like baths were. Suddenly I found myself like just doing all this stuff. And then to bring it back to the Mr. J episode, I think on that episode I had mentioned how I had just actually run by myself with the dogs. Because I was at a place where the bride wasn't with us, and she goes fast. She walks fast. So it's like, I didn't want any pressure. And it's like, well, I'd been doing all this walking, and I do all these stairs, or all this stuff for a long time. And I was like, well, I'll just see if I can run this like path that I know and not look at my timer, and just, I don't know, see how it is. I had the dogs, and I looked up, and I was like, oh my God, that was nearly half an hour, and that was kind of okay. And I'm running, I'm thinking I'm healthy, I'm strong, I'm focused, I'm calm, and that was like, and I got through it, and then suddenly it's like, oh, I can do this. It's just like something in my mind clicked where like you did that, and it wasn't that hard, right? And it was pretty satisfying to have done, right? And you try to walk the dogs anyway, so what the hell? So I started building that into, and suddenly it was just like, I'm not saying like I have like the bug, as it were, but it's become this like new routine, and I don't love to run, certainly, but I'm starting to feel better, and it's amazing to me that's actually happened, but it's taken a long time.
I think part of it is, at least for me, the first time I did Couch to 5K, it was at a point in my life where I had really started to like miss my youth. Like I never liked running when I was younger at all, when I had all the energy to do it. Like I could have easily started running when I was in high school and become an actual runner, but as I got older and I did that Couch to 5K and it really worked, it was really rewarding to like regain those abilities that I had when I was younger, and I think that's part of that, why now that running is kind of clicking, because you're able to like you said, like it was really rewarding, whatever that milestone was. It was really rewarding to get that from running, to be like, oh, I just did that and I didn't die and I made it through it, like, the first time I ran like 20 minutes nonstop, like I jogged like 20 minutes without stopping. That was huge for me. I was like, holy shit. Like,
absolutely. Yeah.
So, and then when I ran a 5K, that was another huge one where I was just like, holy shit. Like I ran 3.2 miles, like without stopping. That's
Yeah.
outrageous.
It is outrageous. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean my goal is to get up to where I can run like 5 miles at a go. I think that would be
Wow.
like
Yeah. That's
that to me
huge.
is like that's like a good run, like a
Yeah.
good 5-mile run, and then do that like 3 or 4 times a week. I think that would be like I would be totally content if that was my regular exercise,
Yeah.
And I told Ash, like, if I did get up to that point, like, then maybe looking into maybe doing some weight training or something, just like for my upper body. But I mean, honestly, like if you ran 15 to 20 miles a week, right? Like,
Oh, wow. To think of it like that. Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like,
Whoa.
like, do you exercise? Well, I run 15 to 20 miles a week. Like it does. Like, I think that should be
sounds
like a
lot.
base. That's got to be worth something, right? Like
Oh
a
my
good
God,
baseline,
Yeah.
like, and then I don't care what size I am. I don't care what weight I am. I obviously, again, I know it's silly to be like, to not think, oh, if I ran 20 miles a week, that I wouldn't weigh less than I weigh now. I know I would weigh less. Of course, I would weigh less. But I mean, I don't expect to be rail skinny, and I don't need to be rail skinny. If I can be like, if somebody were to ask me, "Oh, do you exercise?" Yeah, I run 15 miles a week. Okay, yeah, that's a yes.
Yeah. That's a huge yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, it's like the lazy man's exercise, right? Like that's like the easiest milestone to hit. I think like that's easier than committing to going to a gym every day. The only drawback is like we don't live in environments where we can go outside and run every day.
Yeah.
So you do like become dependent on something inside, finding something inside, and that's just not easily accessible. So,
and that's a whole nother thing you have to do. I mean, I found that the big thing for me has been the gradual nature of it, and a kind of intrinsic motivation that's pure, that's not motivated by vanity primarily or whatever, like it maybe has been in the past in ways that never worked. And my goal is essentially to feel better, and that's not so hard. I mean, if only to feel the satisfaction of like, I did something today. And like for me, a long time it was walking, and sometimes I think it might still be that. And it's like and it all kind of, I imagine it will change. I had just got a Fitbit at a doorbuster. The bride got it for me for well,
that's a charge too. That's the one I have.
Yeah, what I did was I was getting really frustrated as it got colder, as I was trying to like take my gloves off, unlock my phone, start and stop my timer in the morning.
Right.
And I was like, fuck this. Like, I could afford a Fitbit, I think. And so I looked up like, which Fitbit should I get? And there's a thing where you can take a quiz, I guess, on their website. It comes up and there's like, what are some of the things you're interested in improving? Or so it was not very many questions at all, like less than 10, maybe only 3. I don't know. But like I liked the idea of auto recognizing exercise, so I didn't have to start and stop my phone. Excuse me. And then I wanted to maybe figure out the sleep, because I was just always tired. I'm often always tired. And for the most part, I sleep okay, I guess. I don't know. I just thought I'd want to kind of monitor that a little bit better to see if I could understand it more. And then there was something about relaxing, which I think it has like a guided relax thing, I guess, which I've yet to use. I've only had it for less than a week, but so far I'm liking it already. I mean, it's incredibly liberating to not have to start the timer. There is some kind of timer thing I can start on the watch, which actually today I was trying to do a comparison between the auto recognize, does those active minutes or whatever on the far right, to what my timer had been, to see if like actually what I was timing heart rate wise would add up to the auto stuff. Anyway, that remains to be seen, but I've really liked it so far.
The flights,
yes, the floors,
are really inaccurate. I mean, I can get. What's funny is my neighborhood is. Oh man, I almost said that out loud. It is known for the hills that it exists in, right?
Mm-hmm.
I guess we could beep it.
Yeah.
You just beep out. but the neighborhood is called, and it's a lot that it's very, we live on the hillside. And so if you're going to walk in our neighborhood and you're going to go around blocks, you're guaranteed at least half of the block will be uphill.
Nice. I think, well, for what we're talking about, I think good. Nice.
Yeah. And so that's if you were going to do a square block. But if I do this really awesome walk where I can come out my door, because I live on a cross street. I can come out my door, and if you think of, there's 4 parallel roads in my neighborhood, and then there's 3 cross streets that intersect those 4 parallel roads, and that I will zigzag through the neighborhoods, and you get this really awesome, like, it's just like if you were imagining your activity of like uphill, downhill, like your heart rate just goes like this, because you're going like, you'll go 2 blocks of just this like steep climb uphill, and then 2 blocks like steady decline, and then 2 blocks like back uphill again, and then it's really awesome.
That's great. Yeah.
By the time you do that walk and you get back home and you look at your flights on your Fitbit, like I'll get like 32 flights and not have climbed 1 stair in that whole, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I think if you get on their website, it equates. It's like, it's your changing elevation by so many feet over so much of a distance. They will count that as a flight, even if you're not technically climbing stairs. You know what I mean? Like, that's so. I found those to be pretty inaccurate. The nice thing is that has like the GPS thing, so the GPS assist, which is really nice. So it'll calculate your stride, which is good. I've dissected it a lot. The sleep stuff is really interesting. If you haven't, I really like that.
I've been digging into that a little bit.
Yeah, so we're gonna have to become Fitbit friends so we can challenge each other.
I was just thinking, how we could, especially now that we're doing that, maybe involve it in the show. I don't know. I mean, I might be able to warm to the challenge, but I think some of what helps me is that it is this very solitary thing where I'm not competitive with people.
Yeah.
I'm barely even competitive with myself. But I do like the idea of like sharing it somehow. Because I know, well, I just like that idea as motivation, just to even just have to say like, I haven't been great on it, to inspire myself to do a little better. But so yeah, I haven't even done a full week yet to know. I know I like the day reporting stuff. So
yeah,
they're good like weekly reports or averages or something.
I get no, I do get emailed weekly reports from Fitbit.
Okay.
It'll lay everything out, and it'll that does have some implied competition in it though. Where any of your friends that you're synced with or that you're connected to on your Fitbit app, it'll compare you automatically, like where you stood with some of your friends.
Oh, okay. I mean, that might be a good thing. I don't know. Yeah, it's so funny because I'm so new to it, and we're just past Thanksgiving as we're recording this, and the bride's sister came out, and she and her husband, and even her kids a bit, like the last few years have gotten into running, and they just do it a lot, and they really love it, and they're like, she's the kind of person too that even in a lot of our conversations, there's a lot of specifics, a lot of first, last names of people you never heard of, but as though you did heard of them, hear of them, and details about things. She's kind of, I don't know, she's having slightly different conversations than I am sometimes. But so she's going through all these stats about, like, I don't even know how to say it, just numbers related to running. I was like, oh yeah, that's amazing. And then we went on so what often happens for me with the runs so far has always been going out with our dogs and the bride into these prairies and these loops and stuff. And so we did that with her, and the bride's been great about exercise as long as I've known her, and it's a real part of her life and routine, and how sometimes she'll do it for her mental health. I mean, she's got it all dialed in, figured out like what works for her and stuff. So she's in way better shape than me. And she was running up there with her sister, who's also in way better shape than me. And I'm just back there doing my thing, like having like, what did you call your run before? Like a lumbering or
the slow plod, like
slow
the
plod. Yeah. I'm a
lumbering
slow
plod.
plotter for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just back there doing that. Doing my breaking out my mantra now and again. And because I also had my nephew next to me. He's like 16, like 20 feet tall, just like a bundle of energy. And he's just like walking backwards. He'll come in and check with me. I'm just kind of doing my thing. And they're up there. The bride told me later that her sister said so many times, like, he's not a runner. It's like, no shit. But anyway, I'm back there running my own race.
Yeah.
As I like it. And
but do your own thing. Yeah.
It was I think I had the Fitbit. I might not have had the Fitbit. Anyway, I did it though for like 3 days in a row, just because that was when I was able to. And once I did have the Fitbit, we finished our run like we normally do. The bride will just kind of lead us around. And generally, what I'm always trying to do is put together 30-minute, or like when we're running, run for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Never have thought about things that people who do it a lot probably do, like how far they went and how fast, I guess.
Yeah.
This was the
I'm not
first
worried
time.
about fast, just
Yeah.
far.
Yeah, and
Distance.
this is the distance. Yeah, and those things are all measured by the Fitbit. So we were able to, which the bride doesn't have. So she's like, "How far was it?" And it was 3 miles, and we were in, and I was like, "Isn't that close to a 5K?" And she's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "What the fuck?" I was like, it all washed over me. Like, "Oh, I can do this now." So
Yeah.
But so it's been very gradual for me. So I might be able to introduce comfortably some competition or whatever, or just like motivation, I guess. But the thing about the Mr. J thing that really came at a good time, or was really reinforcing from some things that I was trying, the thing that hit home the most for me was just like, A, that we know him. Like he's someone, and also too, it was kind of a surprise that he was as into that as he is, just because
Right.
it's something that's come up. And then also that whole thing about what he kept saying is like these ideas of what these sort of limitations that he started to break about what he could and couldn't do. He's like, Mr. J can't do this, or Mr. J can't do this. He's like, why not? And I just do. I think I don't think of myself as someone who puts limits on what I can and can't do, but I definitely had in that regard. I think it was more about what I wanted to do, or what I felt like I could. I don't know.
But even then, I have definitely, through like hours of introspection while I'm driving, because that's when I get to like be introspective. I know I have discovered things, and I know your follow-up question will be what things, so I'll be thinking about that. I know there have been things that I have said, oh, I don't want to do that. And you say that enough times that it's because you think you can't do it. Like I don't want to do it was a result of, well, it doesn't matter that I can't do it. It's because I don't want to do it, you know?
Or maybe you're really thinking like, I can't do it, therefore I'm going to say I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
I definitely do that. I think I must.
Yeah. And so, I don't know. It's one of those weird things where it's like Brussels sprouts or, I don't know, acquired tastes. You know, it's like hopefully something lines up at some point in your adult life that makes you appreciate, oh my gosh, I can do this thing. And hopefully, if all that happens, that thing is also happens to be beneficial for you or somebody else.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
You know,
I want to just like not put a pin in this, but I want to mention something I want to tag up on that relates remarkably well to this other conversation we have. Just the relation to the title, the Snowball effect, and the 37 relating to the filmmaker Kevin Smith and podcaster. Just kind of what you were saying is something that I heard him say last night in person. I actually have more, so I wanted to talk even to Dave Stiggs about this health stuff, but I want to circle back to that and don't want to, for people who might tune in because of the Kevin Smith reference, and we spend a half an hour talking about Fitbits. It's all related.
Well, no, I mean, actually, that's probably a good segue. Is we can let's
Well, my Dave's Digs is really tied to some of these health type things.
Okay.
So let's do that.
Now get ready. We're gonna play some rock and roll. It's alive! It's alive!
I have been expecting that.
He's a bad guy. Can we go, please?
No, I'm enjoying it.
What are you?
I'm Batman.
Who's a grumpy bastard?
Yeah, I'm a grumpy bastard.
What's going on?
Why don't you tell me a story?
What do you mean?
Listen, punk. I don't need you.
Don't think. Feel.
Talk hard.
Don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
Are you ready?
So I don't want to spoil. Well, we're going to talk about this. There's no spoiling, but I put a link at the URL. So there's YouTube and a URL in the show notes.
Oh, okay.
that
Let me go to,
Click the URL, not the YouTube.
Okay.
And it is for listeners. It is www.trainwithvandam.com.
Holy shit! Are you fucking kidding
This
me?
has been so hard for me not to talk to you about.
Oh my
Oh,
god!
you on the website? So it's
Wait. Wait, so do I do the YouTube URL or
Well,
the URL
for-
URL?
for now. Let's just do the URL, and then we'll
Okay.
go to YouTube after because we can kind of explain what it is. Do you see it?
Yeah. You see?
Okay.
Weak body change 100%. JCVD's coaching 24 sports videos.
And
Oh
I'm
my
gonna-
gosh, does he have red hair? Is he a ginger?
No, it's totally dyed. He would have completely gray hair. He's in his early 50s.
Look at that hair. It
I
looks
know.
so bad.
It does not look good.
It looks oh, I'm such an asshole.
No. This whole thing is so fun because it's
No, I'm gonna
so
find
ridiculous.
out he had cancer or something. And I'm gonna feel shitty for commenting on his hair.
I don't think
That's why I
don't
didn't
think
start.
it
That's do you know that's why I didn't start the feud. This is a segue.
is.
Why I didn't start the feud with
with Val Kilmer.
with Val Kilmer was because I found out he like fought cancer at some point in time.
Oh, he
recently.
did. Oh,
And that's
shit.
why he
That
looks like
sucks.
that. I can't be
Yeah.
like, oh, you look. What did I say?
You look terrible. Oh, that's terrible. Oh, well, that was a good move on your part.
Yeah, I couldn't start the feud. I couldn't be like, so this is Val Kilmer looks like I can't even think of the goddamn insult that I
Oh,
said.
you were saying you look like Nick Nolte on a bad day.
Oh, Nick Nolte's mugshot from 10 years ago. And when I googled Nick Nolte's mugshot from 10 years ago, the right picture showed up.
That was fun to talk about, if nothing else, at the time. But that was good of you not to go after him. I
Yeah,
guess.
I couldn't. I mean, come on, Jesus! Like that? No, please, no. I'm not going to do that.
He's the Iceman after all. And-
No, he's not. I mean, he's not. If he like, not at all. But I'm not going to pick on somebody for the way they look because they had. I mean, because they had cancer. He looks like. He looks like he fought cancer. That's terrible.
I guess that's true. Yeah.
Um.
Well, JC is basically looks a little older because of his years doing drugs. I think
Cocaine. Lots of
cocaine. But oh man, when I found out about this, like I was just joined to his. I mean, his online presence in general is hilarious, and the guy's got a great sense of humor about himself in
He
general.
does.
And of course that I mean the best example, like the most effective example I would say would be the movie JCVD where he plays a version of himself. But there's
And then
the Jean
Amazon show.
yeah,
Where he plays a version of
Jean-Claude
himself.
Jean-Claude Van Johnson, which
Right.
it's not quite out. I mean the pilot is up, but I think the full season hasn't come out yet. And
No.
the premise of that is like that he is Jean-Claude Van Damme in the show, but Jean-Claude Van Damme happens to be an actor to be undercover as a cover for his real occupation, which is as an undercover agent. And so it's pretty funny.
Who's like a bungling undercover agent? Like
Yeah, yeah,
like not
yeah.
a
I think
good
it's
undercover
full on
agent.
comedy, and he's great in it. But so Yeah, this Train with Van Damme, I was just checking on his JCVD World website. I don't know why.
Is that the other URL?
That's his main like website that he, posts stuff to. And it's always just like he's just he's odd. He's like, "Hi fans," all that kind of stuff. Remember it was an early episode of ours where I found out about that Jean-Claude Van Johnson show?
Where he does the,
he's
like thing through the French doors.
Yeah, and he's like, "Hi, Jean-Claude Van Damme." And it's just like, that's just how he is. And we're going to get to watch a little taste of like that goofiness, but I just wanted to kind of describe what this is. And of course, I'll tweet it out with the episode and whatnot, but
I'm already, please tell me you signed up for this, right?
I did. Yeah. Because it's $20 for like 8 weeks or whatever. And it's all these videos. And I was like, well, shit.
Yeah.
Why not? And so, I joined.
Access to them for 8 weeks, or do you just
I think you get access to them for 6 months.
Oh, okay.
And it's like through an app and stuff, and they're posting them gradually, and then so I'll read the like one sentence thing that looks to be in his wording. It goes, "For 8 weeks, we're going to train together and transform your body. Our goal, to focus on tonus, flexibility, and balance to improve your physical form and health." It's not perfect accent, but his accent is all over the place, which he actually acknowledges in these videos. He is so off the cuff, and
wow,
it's like I don't even mind, because like he clearly is not trying to hide anything about like his past or his personality, and he is making fun of himself. Like there's this one part where he's like saying how you need to clench your buttocks. He's like, like on the TV show Friend, Jean-Claude Van Damme can squeeze walnut with his buttocks like that, and he looked back over his shoulder and smiles, and half smiles, like you can imagine something back there, like you could put your thumb. I know it looks stupid. It's just like, it's so disarmingly like awkward and weird. And I know that though. I mean, like I'm doing karate in the garage to Bloodsport and Kickboxer soundtracks as it is,
right?
Which I'm just kind of like, this is great. I'm loving this. Of course, it is. Is ridiculous, and I'm not trying to say that like this is cool. I don't know, whatever. So I'm just like embracing all the lunacy of it. And then it's just like I laugh my way through it sometimes because it's ridiculous. So let's watch the there's a lot of like mini videos you can watch, but I put one in the spreadsheet that I think is kind of funny, maybe one of the longer ones, and at least from the ones I was able to find quickly tells.
I'm just getting hang on.
Oh yeah, sorry, gotta add.
Oh man,
add.
I am at 0.00, but the little bit of house music started.
Yeah. Okay. All right, ready? I'm gonna count it off on Palmer's Pick 3 and 3.
Oh my God.
Hi, this is Jean-Claude Van Damme. In 5 weeks, you will lose 15 kilos. In 3 weeks, with my own program, you lose 3 kilos.
Oh, yeah.
You'll wait 2 weeks, and after 2 months, 25 kilos. No. That will not work, okay? Our program will be completely different. First of all, we'll talk about how to maintain yourself straight attitude, which is very difficult, and we'll have a great balance.
See that like odd?
And also we'll have a great attitude in life. 2, we'll need stretching. Very important to have
that Belgian accent, right?
And to be able not to kick, but to have that type
from
of
Belgium?
Yeah,
flexibility.
it's kind of mixed. He
3, dexterity. Important to be able to control your stretching, your speed, your flexibility.
Oh yeah,
dexterity.
he looks.
When all this is done,
odd and made up.
We'll bring.
He looks as
muscle
orange as Donald
workout.
Trump.
We're going to have fun.
Like
and
that's
we're going to
the
have
fake
results.
tan.
I promise you, Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Oh my God.
Oh, you want to take a?
Ironically, he's like juggling an orange.
Yeah.
That is fantastic.
It is that I was hoping that would be a little bit more funny. Like, and the funny is not really intentional. He's not. I mean, he's not trying to be funny, but the things I find funny are not. supposed to be funny. And he apologizes early on. He's like, sorry for my accent. I'm not in Los Angeles. I'm in Hong Kong, and I'm all every place. It's like, it's just so. I don't know how to describe this surreality of it.
You're just stumbling over, like it's almost, to me, it feels like this level of, I don't know, it's like you're stumbling on. He was recording this exercise regiment. It just so happened there was a camera there that happened to capture it, that became the actual program. Like, you're just like stumbling on him in his normal everyday life, you know, like
sort of, yeah,
you know, like, oh, I just wanted to record this thing.
Right.
Here. It's good that you're here now. We're going to, I'm Jean-Claude Van Damme.
He
We're
does
going
do
to
that.
You know, and like,
yes.
so
He actually does do that. Some of the things is like, good morning, afternoon. I don't know what it is, where you are. We are here, and we're gonna do some stretching. It's just like,
I was thinking, it's like he comes out, he's like scratching his ass.
a little bit, yeah.
You know, like he just took a big dump, and like he's wrapping up his breakfast. Like,
It is so casual, yeah.
oh, hello. I forgot this was going on today. So, all right, let me like throws a toast over his shoulder. All right, so, all right, so Jean-Claude Van Damme says we stretch.
Right? Yes.
We're
Yes.
going to stretch.
Exactly like that. And when there's
So
no one
why
else
don't you
there,
go stretch for the next 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Jean-Claude's gonna go in here. Be back. Well, hey, that's not my line.
it is a bit like
You're
that.
paying attention. But keep that
This-
camera rolling. I'll be back.
It's like you've seen it.
Yeah.
It's incredible. I will say, I haven't been to classes that are like yoga classes or anything like that personally, but it does strike me as that level of like, it's as though they're just filming one that the person barely knew or paid attention that they were filming. So they're not, it's like not polished what they're saying.
Yeah.
And like he'll like, you know, and that stuff is he says at the beginning too, it's like, this is some of going to be very boring and all this. And so I haven't really gotten to the point where like breaking a sweat at all. And
he doesn't actually do any training. He's just like, oh, you know, I'm Jean-Claude Van Damme, and when I was on Friends, walnuts in my ass. You know, like, all right. So in the next lesson, we'll talk about blood sport, but no time cop.
yeah. I mean, it's not, that's really not far off. But so I have definitely enjoyed it. I'm not to the point where I count it as my full workout for the day. But yeah, it's a trip to say the least, and it's so funny. And
I can't believe you. How long have you been sitting on that? Like,
not too terribly long. A couple of, I mean, like, you know, we recorded I think 3 weeks ago, and so maybe 2 weeks or so. I've been sitting on it, but I just thought it'd be so funny to spring on you. So.
Oh man, that is fantastic! Like, absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it's been very fun. I'll report more on it as I do more of it and can talk more about it. But
we didn't get to talk really like about the whole like Green Power Ranger deal. Like, did you know about that feud? Like, all that?
No, not really.
So like funny to me.
Yeah, well, some of the thing too, where I'm like kind of laughing at him, and I think he doesn't mind being laughed at. I mean, I remember, it's hard to. I haven't quite fully like articulated like how I feel about it for sure. But I see the logo.
Yeah, I know it popped
there.
up for a second there. I don't know
sorry.
what it was.
I just wanted to make sure you weren't trying to launch something. But
No.
I started to think about him or anyone else, like people who are so singular that they're almost like caricatures of themselves.
Right.
You know, he has achieved like incredible things.
It's gonna break.
Yeah. The sweat is gonna fall
Yeah.
eventually in
When
week
you're talking
5.
about people who just played characters of themselves, like,
Right, yeah.
you know.
Yeah, and it's like, and they're easy to make fun of, but they have also like, and whoever it is, like I don't like to include like a Kim Kardashian in this because that's not so much her achievement is like figuring out how to leverage her sexuality so that I guess
Right.
that counts, but I don't really like to celebrate that kind of thing. But like Jean-Claude Van Damme literally like was a skinny kid, built himself into a world-class, movie star and then a world-class athlete. Well, like he built, there's no denying like what he accomplished, whether or
Right.
not like somebody can sucker punch him in a nightclub or somebody could legitimately defeat him in matches. Like none of that really matters. Like he's done some really cool shit, as has
Right.
most anyone who is like famous for some accomplishment. And
Right.
I guess I've been reminded of that a little bit more recently. I guess from the just sort of humility of watching this guy that I'm so sort of familiar with at a different level in his life and stuff, and being able to kind of laugh at him and stuff, but also just be like, well, the guy does know what he's talking about. He's been in incredible shape for 40 years or whatever it is, and
Right.
so he does have some secrets about exercise, stuff that's
Right.
So in any event, the one thing about the training thing I wanted to mention too that I liked is it's all just stuff in your house. Like he's like he'll do an exercise where he's like holding 2 water bottles or like stepping on a broom or just using a chair to do something, or at the most like two
That's
tiny
nice, yeah.
barbells. So I really like that because that kind of fit into the type of ad hoc stuff that I'm willing to engage in. But
I'm all about like
So-
natural resistance, even where you use your own body weight. You don't even have like props. Like there's exercises that you do that just use your body weight as the weight.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I'm so fucking big. Like, why not take advantage of it, right?
Well, and that's proportional too, right? To like,
Yeah.
You're lifting what you have to lift anyway, etc.
Right.
But anyway, so it's ridiculous, it's hilarious, it's helpful.
Dude, that's
it came at
so-
a great time.
That's so fucking awesome.
So that's what's been happening with me.
That's
I mean,
awesome.
at least in the most amusing sense. What about with you?
No, that's fantastic. Not much here. Just working on. So, this is right after Thanksgiving. It was the first Thanksgiving that Ash and I spent in Dayton. Like we didn't travel to a family at all. Like we just stayed. We got to wake up in our own bed every morning of Thanksgiving break. We both took Wednesday off, so we had like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We had a bunch of cake. I made cookies with cake in them, which those were fantastic. Trying to think. So we did that. My nephew came out for Thanksgiving, which was fantastic. Got to see him. We've kind of agreed on a financial plan to try to try to buy our own place. And we've kind of set a deadline for ourselves and all that stuff. So we're going to try to stick to that. And, Jesus, I hate how I get the fucking yawns. I've been waking up at like,
Yeah, you've been working out.
I've been waking up between 4 and 5 like all this week, and that was another thing I took from the Mr. J episode was I've been taking advantage of. For some reason, my insomnia has flipped from where I can fall asleep now, but then I wake up at usually I'll wait. I don't know. I usually wake up at least once to pee in the middle of the night. That's normal. I started waking up like 3 or 4 times every night and would still have to pee, but then I couldn't fall back asleep. And recently I've been waking up between like 3:30 and 4 and just like staying awake. And so on the Mr. J episode was where you guys where somebody was like, if you're just going to be up, then you might as well be up and do something.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I've just started like, well, I'm just going to get up. And so that's helped motivate me for the exercise as well. Cause I've been waking up at 4 o'clock And I'll be like, okay, you'll give yourself till 5 if you haven't, because working from home, I could stay in bed till 7 and still be at work on time,
Yeah.
So, well, all right, give myself till 5. If I'm still up by 5, then I'm going to get up, and that's how it's been. So,
another nod to the Kevin Smith 37 and such is that for I don't know if he still does it for a long time though, especially when he was mostly podcasting. He was getting up right around that same time, like 4 a.m. or whatever, and he was just like edit podcasts or do whatever. He mostly smoked. That was his thing too. Always with the smoking, I think maybe still is. He has to couple it with something productive. At least that's the way it was for the longest time. So you can easily eat some cake and edit a podcast or record a podcast or whatever. But
no, that's about the same. That's about the same mentality that I have. Sometimes I'll get up, I'll do that, and I'll be like, all right, and so then I'll go and eat a piece of cake, and then I'll be like, oh, you know what? I can go back to sleep now, and I'm okay with that too. Like, then I'll go back to sleep, and I'll sleep for 3 hours and be golden. So, trying to think what else. Working on. So we've been working on that financial. Like we've come to that agreement with our finances and what our goals are over the next year, and so because of that, one of the parts of that agreement was we were going to start in the basement and purge our way up over the next year through the house. So where we can start just getting rid of stuff that we don't need. And the basement was really weighing on me a lot because it was pretty demolished. There was a lot of crap from like Dad and house that I brought back here and just got thrown in the basement. My wood shop was all like disheveled for over a year. It's just been like the last project I had been working on was like still sitting there, and I just hadn't got back down there in that long, and just a bunch of stuff. So we got through the basement and like got that all. That's like 97% done, which is fantastic.
Oh, that must feel good. I had a similar thing. I have a few rooms in the house like that, but my main office kind of area, which might have been a mess when you were there. I don't know. Like, it took me not a full year, but it took a while throughout the course of this last year to really like sort through it. And I used to have stuff in the anyway, but that does feel really good to I know how good that feels.
Like, and so like we went into Thanksgiving break. I ended my last day of work before Thanksgiving break completing the current task that I was on. So I was all caught up with work. We had cleaned the basement, which had been weighing on me for like a year, like 2 weeks prior to that. So I went into the break with nothing weighing on my shoulders, like not even anything to procrastinate. So it was just really refreshing. It was awesome.
Oh, that's great. That's really great.
So there's that. I mean, my stuff will probably segue. The only other stuff that I really had to talk about would probably segue into King Corner.
Oh
wait, did you have a shit the bride says?
Oh, I do have a brief one. Yeah. Only one new. I mean, she says things all the time, but this is the only one I stopped everything to document. And I think actually she sent it to me in a text or a chat or something, so I had it all typed out. And of course, you can follow these on Twitter as they happen at shitda at shitdubride says, because Twitter doesn't allow for the full thing. And then we retweet them. Excuse me. One beer, folks. Retweet them on at LWSD pod on Twitter as well. And I will read it aloud now. From November 17th of this year, she says, I'm in a meeting being nonstop mansplained over and ignored, and I want to punch a baby. A man, baby. It was so fun to see your face in anticipation of hitting that button. That was magic. I was so excited. I could tell. It was perfect. That was perfect.
Everything
I've ever wanted in all my years of podcasting. Like to have that live, like to just know that I could do that and it would be live. This is magical.
I'm so pleased. And it really was like spot on.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was great.
Oh man, was that good? Oh, I have not. So I know this cuts into our time a little bit here, but we haven't really got to acknowledge the, like, we've mentioned him multiple times, like Kevin Smith and the 37, and this is the 37th episode. Which is just like one of the best running jokes in Clerks.
And then throughout Kevin Smith's career, they took that number and really rolled with it.
Oh, that is true.
Like his jersey, he wore a jersey last night. We saw him in person, and he wears a lot of hockey jerseys as his like uniform, and they're all number 37.
He has actually his own line of jerseys, doesn't he? Like I
think so now. Yeah, for the longest time, he was getting them custom made, and they would be so expensive to reproduce that they weren't selling them. But I think they probably do now.
Yeah, they're all 37. That is awesome. So, if you don't know the joke, it's basically, spoilers for goddamn 30-year-old movie.
1994 Clerks.
Yeah. So Dante and his girlfriend are just like reminiscing at his job.
He works at a convenience store.
Yeah.
The whole movie's about two clerks. One works in the next door convenience store and a video store in the early 90s rather.
Yeah.
In a small town.
And they're just like talking about their sexual exploits, and oh no, a dude comes in who is Scott Mosier.
Yeah, the producer of the movie,
like
in disguise.
The other half, like, of Kevin Smith's like production like movie making powerhouse. It's Kevin Smith and Scott Mosier, those two guys. And he's playing this character who is called Snowball, and she happens to mention, oh, Snowball. And he's like, why do you call her Snowball or something? It goes along those lines. And you find out that a snowball is basically that when a guy gets a blowjob, he likes to have his load like spit back into his mouth. And he says, because they're talking about a girl who had sex with him. And he's like, oh my God, she had sex with him to know that that's his name, Snowball, that he likes that. And she's like, no, she didn't blow him. And he's like, oh my God, you blew that guy? And she's like, yeah, maybe once. And he's like, what, you told me you only slept with like 3 guys. Yeah, I've only slept with 3 guys. Well, he wasn't one of those guys. And she's like, no, I didn't sleep with him. I just blew him. And he's like, well, how many guys did you blow? And she's like, I don't know, like 36. He's like, Jesus Christ, I'm 36. And she's like, 37?
I'm 37.
Yeah. And so he goes in and he does that line that like, and I'm totally paraphrasing it and probably butchering
great actually
all of it. And he gets into this huge fight that she sucked 37 dicks and that she didn't count that as her like sexual experiences, which, I mean, you got to hand it to Kevin Smith. Like writers, directors, any of those people, you have to write what you know. And he's in a lot of, man, you just have to put your insecurities in there. And it's like, he made 3 movies about his sexual insecurities, like feeling that other women were like far superior in their sexual conquests than him, and how he couldn't handle that shit in their relationship. Like that. I mean, I know that there's this like bit in Clerks. It's rehashed again. He made an entire movie about that, which is Chasing Amy, which is self-admittedly like his whole dealing with like him trying to handle a relationship with Joey, like the girl,
the girl in the movie
in Chasing Amy, because she had been in like I don't. You probably know it better than I do, but like, wasn't it because she had been in Hollywood and she had done all this other stuff that he hadn't done yet? You know?
Yeah, and I
like,
think I've heard it at one point too. Like it was, he said he like, you kind of take those kernels of truth and then you dress them up in other things. And Chasing Amy is a little bit of a. I think we talked about this maybe on 26 when I got really drunk, and but it was something like Scott Mosier got a crush on this lesbian filmmaker friend of theirs. And so it's a kind of a cross between like taking that idea of having a crush on a lesbian or maybe falling deeply in love with a lesbian as a straight guy. And then crossing that with the kind of sexual.
Wait, is Jason Lee supposed to be Scott Mosier?
No, it's just kind of twisted. It's kind of a mashup. It's more like the Holden Ben Affleck character.
Yeah.
That's so Scott Mosier, there's not a direct correlation.
Oh yeah.
But Scott Mosier is kind of the Affleck character, but also so is Kevin Smith. They just kind of combine this thing of like being in love with a lesbian, this unattainable thing, but also then using the sexual insecurity thing, sexual experience of like someone who had such a different sexual experience
right.
And then finding out that in that movie, he finds out that she was like with multiple partners and stuff. And anyway, so it's a combination of that stuff. But I heard him say one time that it's like, if it were literally what happened was, it's like I would just like freak out because my girlfriend went to Bali. So I don't know what those specifics are.
That's what he said in Kent when I saw him in Kent. Was he's like I wrote Chasing Amy because I couldn't handle that my girlfriend went to Europe.
Right. Yeah.
So which is I mean, that's probably true, but it's just so interesting to see. So he's got this. Dante finds out his girlfriend sucks 37 dicks. As she's storming out, there's a customer comes up to the counter. He's like, "Can you believe it? My girlfriend sucks 37 dicks." And the best joke ever. He's like, "No, the second to best joke ever is the guy." He says that he's like, "My girlfriend, can you believe it? Suck 37 dicks." And the guy's like, "Whoa, in a row?" Like, and then he storms after her because she leaves the store.
Yeah.
And he storms and he sticks his head out the door and she's storming off towards the towards her car.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Hey, try not to suck any dick on your way to the parking lot." And she just doesn't even acknowledge him, just keeps walking away. And there happens to be in between them a dude just like holding the wall up, just like leaning against the wall, like smoking a cigarette, right? And hears this whole exchange go on. And as soon as he hears Dante say that, like, try not to suck any dick on the way to the parking lot, the dude's like, and like starts following the girl. And then you hear Dante go, "Hey, you, get back here." That's the first best joke of that whole like exchange.
Magic.
Like, oh, it's so good. It's like, perfect.
That's well told.
Yeah. So that's the reference to 37, and to know that like they carried it on. Like I had not noticed the 37 references, and that it had lived on beyond that.
Oh yeah.
For them, that's
like the only number associated with his sort of
that makes sense
career
though.
and catalog of movies.
And
I
like that.
It's nefarious.
It's on his jerseys and all that stuff. That's so. I mean, because it's just so striking. So. Yeah, when we in a row, I love that joke. That's just so good.
Well, and what's fun too is you're in your 37th year. They say that's your golden birthday. So for me, my birthday is July 25th. So on when I turned 25 on July 25th, that was my golden birthday. Ironically, it's the one that I missed, the one that I didn't realize happened. But or maybe that's not ironic, but it's unfortunate. But so. By that logic, for our podcast, this is the one time that our podcast number will be the same as your age.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So it's the golden anniversary for that regard.
Yeah.
Golden showers and snowballs. Maybe.
Man.
That's tough not to call it that now.
Yeah. But, golden showers and snowballs. That could be a good name.
But the snowball effect, what I was calling it, because that is a documentary about the making of Clerks. I wonder, like a really fantastic. Watch it, and it will make you want to make a movie. If you've ever considered that for a heartbeat, it's such a great documentary. I started to watch a little bit of it last night to refresh my memory, but I didn't get very far. But I liked.
Well, the segue I was going towards is because you and oh, geez, man, beep.
It's good that we're not live.
Yeah, it's good. You and the bride though where'd you go last night?
We went to a comedy club here in Minneapolis that it's called Acme Comedy Club, and they have this thing where if you get there's an adjoining restaurant, and if you get dinner reservations there, they kind of give you. It's a little bit like first come first. It's like you buy tickets to the show, and sometimes you can get dinner with the show, and then other times not. But if you do the dinner reservations, they give you like they assign you your seating based on the first come first serve to the dinner thing. Maybe it's not entirely first come first serve, but it's pretty close to that. Right. So the first time we did it was for Michelle Wolf, who, the comedian who's on the Daily Show a lot. I talked about in one of the previous episodes, and we were right on the lip of the stage, and the stage is tiny. The room is tiny. I'm not sure how many it holds, but I mean, I'd be shocked if it held 200. It's small. But yeah, so we go to this thing and we have a little meal, and then we have to kill a little time. But then they just like escort you right down front. It's amazing.
Wow.
And then that's where we saw Chris Hardwick. And that time we were in the second row. I talked about that, I think, on the Mr. J show. And then so then Kevin Smith was coming through, and we're like, geez, because we'd seen him before once in a theater, and the bride got a chance to ask a question. Actually, my voice is rocked, but I just realized, like, in real life, I have a voice for the bride that I do constantly. Like, it's this sort of mocking voice that actually she's grown to like, and I say her inner thoughts. I must have talked about this in the show. But yeah, I say what I think she's thinking, which is always like the worst thing possible. And her thing is not to correct me, because if she acknowledges that I am correct, it's somehow incriminating, or that's probably not the right way to say it. I'm not sure how she sees it, but I have a blast with it because I just say like terrible things, and it's in this like childish voice. So I was reminding her last night that she had asked him a question in the past, or like she talked to him. She's like, yeah, briefly. I was doing it in the voice. I can't do the voice for some reason. I'll bust it out. I mean, it's unmistakable that I'm doing a voice if I do this voice. Right. I just can't quite bring myself to it at the moment. But yeah, so we had seen him in a big theater and stuff, and that's what he does. He does big theaters. He does these for people who are not familiar with Kevin Smith, other than what we've described. He when he made Clerks, this independent black and white film, it got picked up at a film festival in 1994, and it kind of gave him a whole career, being a writer, director, and telling these goofy stories. Sometimes really like heart, like he wrote really he tells really silly stories now. It's hard to explain, but a lot of them, he talked about his early movies as like just taking big chunks of his heart out, like we described, and like putting it in a movie.
He's just honest. That's why I am entertained by him.
Yeah,
is because I feel like it is 100% honesty. This is the one. Here's my recommendation. If you want to hear the level of honesty, is if just search on YouTube the Kevin Smith Superman story.
Oh,
like
yeah,
the Nick Cage Superman story. I think
that's taken from the show you were at, right? I believe.
Yeah, that he told that story at that Kent show. I don't know if the one that you'll find, but he's told that story a few times. But seriously, like, it's just this amazing. It's like if you or I got to go to got to be a part of Hollywood, and nobody knew that it was just you or I. And I'm saying that like to the Long Walk Short Drink audience that's listening, like, because Kevin Smith, he's like I guess if whether or not you like him, but like Michael Moore or Kevin Smith, or they just feel like normal people to me. When I it doesn't matter if they're on the red carpet when they're doing an interview, or on a talk show, or on their own podcast, or in their own movies. I feel like you could just be friends with Kevin Smith, like just listening to him talk. Like he just seems like,
when you kind of feel like you are, like he's being so candid and not just candid, but what's the like? I don't know. He's like putting on a show a little bit. Like he's trying to entertain, but it does feel like he's always talking to somebody. If another person, or the way that he does these like speaking engagements is there or not. They essentially feel like stand-up or storytelling related stand-up, but they're all called or based around Q&As, the questions and
Right.
answers, which grew
Right.
out of like they would go out on the film festival circuit and talk after the movie. People would ask them questions, and he'd tell really entertaining stories. And then eventually he started doing that at colleges. And then then he got to
Which
the
is
point
where I
where
saw him.
yeah, and that was the first one that was filmed. That tour for Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back was the first one filmed for a DVD release. It was called An Evening with Kevin Smith, and it's like a double disc. It's wonderful, and you can see one of our friends. You can see Star over somebody's shoulder in a close up.
I think you see me in there too. In
Really?
one of I think so.
That's awesome. And Dusty,
I'm out
Dusty
of
gets
focus.
a close ups.
Yeah, Dusty gets
You'll
a
have to
close
show
up,
me.
and that was the one where we left that and we did something,
Oh yeah,
and we were coming home or we were coming back to Silver Ghettos, which is where they lived, and to party, and we came up behind this like purple tracker that had like a mid-90s Geo tracker with the like soft top on the back, you know, and there were all these View Askew bumper stickers. There was actually a View Askew bumper sticker, a Clerks bumper sticker. There was one for all the Jersey trilogies, all this stuff. I'm like, oh man, this must have been a Kevin Smith fan. They must have been at the show that we were just at. And we pulled up beside this tracker and we look over and it's Kevin Smith behind the wheel, like driving his own fucking car. Like he's driving his own car to the speaking engagement. And he like looks over and it was one of those things where like he looked over and we realized who he was, and he knew that we knew who he was. And as soon as we knew it, the light turned green. He smiled and did his like Silent Bob wave and then took off. Like was awesome. It was gone.
That's so cool. I forgot
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah. So
And that was
Anyways.
in like 2001, right? Or two, maybe? At the most. Probably
long
one.
time ago. Yeah.
Yeah. And but that's the first, like I like the movies. We like the movies. We in 1999 when Palmer Spix was running, we did a Kevin Smith Jersey trilogy special where myself and Palmer, it was Palmer's movie review show. It's on our YouTube channel. You can check it out. We talk about the 3 of his movies that had come out at that point. I was a fan of those just because of what they were, and then I became a fan more of him, like as a just like guy, through following the movies. And then especially once you got to those like DVDs, it was like An Evening with Kevin Smith, and then An Evening with Kevin Smith 2, Evening Harder, and they kept doing like, you know, they would every so many years he put out a new DVD telling new stories, and he would tour around colleges and eventually just other comedy clubs doing that kind of stuff. But then like in 2007, I should say one other thing that made me really like him. I was always a big fan since I was a teenager of director's commentaries. At the time, this was laser discs and eventually became DVDs and now Blu-rays. But his commentaries were really entertaining. And the first one I heard was for Chasing Amy, which was him, Scott Mosier, his producer and friend. I think Jason Mewes was there, who plays like the J to his Silent Bob, and a couple other people. I mean, I could name them. You might not know who they are, but Ben Affleck was in the movie and he was there. And Affleck was so funny in that commentary. And Affleck and Kevin Smith's friendship, I always just enjoyed tremendously. Mostly the window to which was these commentaries and some interviews and stuff. And they just break each other's balls and were just really funny. And that whole thing, and then like learning more about Kevin Smith's movies through these commentaries and question and answer, I basically realized he's a normal guy who ends up making stuff with his friends, like putting his real life friends from New Jersey in movies, making movies with them and stuff. And at the time, I was just starting to do that with my friends. Like, the Cabin Kids were all kind of being creative together. And so that was another way in which I really related to him and deepened my appreciation for what he did and just who he was and is. And then even later in life, as he started to do podcasts in like 2007. He was among the first kind of famous people to do podcasts. They thought of him at the time as being commentary tracks for no movies, which some of the critiques of their commentary tracks for people not me or maybe like Scott Mosier, who's like, we never talk about the fucking movie. And I think in like 2004, they would do these things. Like things would happen from their DVDs sold tremendously well, and things would happen from stuff they mentioned in the commentaries of their movies. Sometimes, like I remember they did an intro. They would do these video intros for the movies sometimes. So when Clerks, no, it was oh my God, it was the Mallrats. That was like his second movie. A lot of people's gateway movie to seeing Kevin Smith movies, but was much maligned at the time. Like people didn't like it, didn't think it's as good as Clerks and stuff. And they did a 10th anniversary or something. No, I think it was for the 10th anniversary of Clerks. Anyway, one of these like DVDs they put out, they did an intro to the movie where they're talking about just.
It was Chasing Amy.
It's off the cuff. No, it's not Chasing Amy because it's a little later. But they were like, they started talking about Roadhouse. And they started talking about Jeff Healey, who I loved Roadhouse because it has like martial arts and blues music in there. And so that's become a cult classic since, but I loved it like at the time because it was just what I was into. And because of that movie, I loved that blind guitarist played guitar in his lap, Jeff Healey. And I had that soundtrack and I put that soundtrack into my action movies and shit. And so there's like these two guys I really love talking about Roadhouse and Jeff Healey. And they're talking about Jeff Healey's like actual albums. I'm like, oh my God, that's so cool. And they're like, we should just do a commentary to Roadhouse. And they're just bullshitting. And then they get into the movie. Like 2 years later, or the next year or something, first DVD of Roadhouse comes out. There's a commentary with the director and stuff, but there's a commentary with Scott Mosier and Kevin Smith. And it's just like them talking about the movie as best they can, reading IMDb, and like basically doing Chuck Norris jokes as Dalton, like the character from Roadhouse. Anyway, so it's all that stuff is so much fun, and they basically parlay that into a podcast, which they started at the time because
which is so weird,
career
so meta.
Yeah.
So like they say something in a commentary which ends up becoming real, and then for a movie, and then that ends up becoming how they just do their podcasts, which ends up ultimately inspiring new movies that they make. Like,
yeah,
because the whole Canada trilogy is all based on individual episodes. The podcast that he started with is Smodcast, for those who don't know, and it's a combination of Smith and Mosier together to get Smod. And Smodcast. And I did listen to that for a while, and it was just that. It was just them bantering. Like I felt like Kevin would come on to those with like some weird topic that he happened to stumble upon, usually while he's reading his iPad on the toilet. Like he would even say that. He's like, he's like on the toilet. And I stumbled upon this, and then they would talk about it.
And embarrassing, honest things too. Like where one time, I remember he come and talked about this time where the episode title ended up being "Fistful of Shame," and it was this time where he wanted to have sex with his wife. She's getting ready in the bathroom. She didn't want to do it. This is so gross. Sorry.
Oh no, like, I know what episode.
You know what
I've listened to this episode. I've heard this episode. It's so good.
You say it. I don't want to say it.
where he wanted to have sex and she was getting ready for something, and so she's like, no, I can't have sex. And so he's finally like, he's like, all right, well then can I just jerk off while I look at your butthole?
Yeah.
And she's like, what? Because he said she was at the mirror and was like doing her makeup. And this is even before their daughter was born, right? Is their daughter?
Their daughter would have been born. Yeah.
Okay.
Because she was born like shortly after Dogma in
99
or 2000.
So she's like, what? He's like, can I just look at your butthole and jerk off? And so she's like, yeah, I guess. And so she's like continues to like be in the mirror doing her makeup while he's like kneeled behind her with like one butt cheek in his hand, like opening her butt, looking at her butthole and jerking off. And he what's funny is, what really struck me about all that is like, as he's telling the story, he's like, and when it was done, like I was really embarrassed. Like I was like, I can't believe I just did that. That's why the title is called A Fistful of Shame.
Yeah.
But his wife was like, that was actually kind of hot. Like she like really was into it. Like, Oh shit. Different
Well, that
strokes,
was
right?
yeah, that was different strokes. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like through the podcast, he started to talk about his wife, who was not someone I previously heard about. And in the Evening with Kevin Smith DVD, the first one, he talks about how they met, which is this kind of epic story too. But as I got to know more about her through the podcast and stuff, 2007, I had recently met the bride. But ultimately, the two of them are rather similar.
Yeah.
His wife, Jennifer Schwalbach, and my wife, the bride, are two very like strong-willed, take no shit kind of ladies. And so the bride, bless you, the
Thank
bride
you.
is a big fan of her as well. And for a while, they did a podcast together, and even for a minute, did like a podcast morning show every day. It was like the
Wow.
morning was him and Jen, and the afternoon was him and Muse. It was fun, but anyway, so some of that is to say, just all the reasons I dig this dude, but also like the snowball effect is a little bit like how the Clerks movie became his whole career, and how basically like his life snowballed into the movie, which snowballed into a career that is an extension of his life, and it's just kind of this portrait of the artist as a young man, but with dick jokes. And so, but I started thinking about it too, like with the podcast. I mean, the reason I listen to podcasts is because of Kevin Smith, and his are still among the ones I listen to most often.
Yeah.
And seeing him last night, I realized like I have, even considering people like Jean-Claude Van Damme's movies I've seen a billion times, all that stuff, there's nobody in my, besides the people in my actual like intimate circle in life, whose voice I've heard or whose life I know more about than Kevin Smith. Like,
Wow.
and like we said, he feels like a friend and stuff, like because he's so open and whatnot. But yeah, there's just no two ways about it. Like, I wouldn't be doing any podcast anywhere because I wouldn't even fucking know what they are if it weren't for Kevin Smith. So
Yeah.
so the whole thing that we do a podcast, I feel like, is a bit owed to him. But he also like back in the day before podcasts, he would always encourage people to make movies, like express yourself, like you can do this too. And now since he's able to advocate podcasts, he's like, I always felt bad saying that because it takes a lot of money and you could invest a lot of money and, be bankrupt and never get it back. But it's like podcasts, like you just take your fucking iPhone and talk to your friend. This is like literally stuff he says. And like, you will change your lives and likely change other people's lives. He's like, he said this last night too. He's like, I guarantee you, if you do like 50 podcasts, at some point, someone's going to come up to you and say, I was thinking about hurting myself until this weird thing you said on a podcast made me change my mind. He's like,
Wow.
you'd be surprised like how much this can benefit your own life and other people's lives. And I was like, Jesus Christ. I've heard him say that for years, but now for the last year, I could say that with much more like experience, having done this podcast with you. So it all seemed pretty, just kind of a nice coincidence.
No, absolutely. Well, I mean, and you even relayed that story that I just to reaffirm that you talk about this story in one of our earlier episodes too, where he had that his Walt Flanagan. It's not Walt.
Oh yeah.
What's his Flanagan?
Yeah, his other friend. Basically, Dante and Randall and Clerks are kind of the Dante character, like the kind of main protagonist, would be pretty much some version of Kevin Smith, like as a whiny version of Kevin Smith, I guess. Who wasn't like sure, like people thought he should go to school, not work at a convenience store.
Right.
But then his friend Randall, who works at the video store next door, that is pretty much he'll tell you, like Kevin Smith will tell you, that is who Kevin Smith wanted to be, who essentially is a a fictional personification of his high school or childhood friend or high school friend Brian Johnson. And that's who, and Brian Johnson and Walter Flynn. He was saying last night, he's like, you guys don't really know Kevin Smith. You guys know Kevin Smith post Walter and Brian. Like without those guys who are now on the show Comic Book Men on AMC after The Walking Dead, with Kevin Smith and stuff. Anyway, but you were about to tell the story basically about Brian Johnson, half of those people.
Like, well, I mean, just to reaffirm that even because you had said, hey, I'm going to tell you right now, it's not going to take us 50 because this podcast has saved me. So I know that what Kevin Smith says is true, but to reaffirm that, how Brian Johnson was like, you said that the line that he used was, "I have one foot on the stool," which is a euphemism for like I'm going to kill myself. Like just so you know, that's going to happen. And Kevin Smith convinced him, like, can you just sit down with a microphone and just start talking? And I mean, Brian Johnson's still here, and now he's like on the show Comic Book Men, and he's on TV, and he's on these podcasts, and like their podcast is Tell 'em Steve Dave.
Yeah, that's one of my very favorites.
Yeah.
That's literally, these two guys have known each other since they were like 9.
Yeah.
And they're just like a bickering old married couple. Like,
Yeah.
they're so different, but their friendship is so long and ingrained.
I mean, they're just friends because they've just been friends for so long. You know? And you can see it on Comic Book Men. You can, and I'm sure like this podcast, you can, because unfortunately I haven't listened to an episode of that. I should listen to that. But I bet it's awesome.
It's very fun. It's really, really fun. And that's an episode that's like, they don't give a fuck about anything. That one's, I don't know. I guess you could hop in now, but that one builds so much on itself. I mean, I feel like you'd be fine if you just hopped in.
Sure.
But there's like a whole cast of characters that has evolved over the years. And when it started, it wasn't like you could tell that Brian was depressed or something.
Sure.
They don't talk about that stuff. But there's so many. I was reminded too. Like Kevin Smith reconnected with Jason Mewes, who while they did movies together, he often kept at arm's length because of all of his drug problems.
Right.
They have still a podcast and a live show just called Jay and Silent Bob Get Old, but it started as Jason Mewes like telling, here's all the like he kind of like owning up to all of the things that had happened to him in his life and his struggles with drugs in ways that he'd never like told people about. And so once they kind of got up to the present of where he'd been sober, now they call it now still an intervention podcast. And at a certain point in every show, that he says, how long you've been clean and sober? And he says, how long? And so it's a way to keep him accountable to not just the people in his life, but like this podcast audience. I don't know. It's a really powerful medium because of the intimacy. Stats. Yeah. That's great. Yeah. I mean, all these things are huge influences on me, and probably things I suggest other people based on it. Wow. And I've heard so much of it. Smodcast has been on for 10 years now. I mean, there was a while where all of these podcasts are like literally every day there'd be a new podcast from Kevin Smith or his buddies, who are really just his buddies, some of whom were kind of famous, or became famous because of these things.
Through him, like through the Jersey trilogy, even. Like I would even like just take back to those like 3 movies, like the original 3, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think about that a lot, like in the stuff that we do, and he's been a real inspiration, as I'm sure he tries to be, and says that these things can enrich your life. And going back to when I first became aware of him, I was already some of that stuff was already starting to happen with us cabin kids. And I just thought, we've talked about him before, certainly, but I wanted to use this opportunity to honor and make explicit that connection a little bit more, because he's as a public figure, he's meant a lot to me, I guess.
No, absolutely. No, and I think all this like ties together, like, because you know we have 37 episodes of this. We're only 13 away from his 50. You know, like
and that was totally random. That 50, and actually, I thought this was an opportunity to. I don't use the Twitter for too much outreach, but I thought, I know he sits around before shows and like looks at Twitter just to maybe help generate ideas or conversation. And so I was like, so I tweeted something like, headed out to see Kevin Smith tonight at such and such, and then recording the 37th episode of our podcast tomorrow. And he just liked it. He hearted it or whatever. But that was kind of fun. It was like to see suddenly a notification on our cell.
He liked both of them. He liked 2 tweets.
Oh yeah, that was he had an early and late show, and so we went to the early show, and then the bride got to ask a question, which ultimately she didn't tell me she was going to ask one. And I didn't know she had one, but she asked, "Hey, when is I really like you, but I'm also a big fan of your wife. I missed the Plus One podcast you guys used to do. Any chance that she might come back to the microphone?" And he's like, "Yeah, actually, as a matter of fact, we just talked about it yesterday. Like, I was in the room recording a podcast by myself." And she's like, "What?" She's like, "What were you doing?" Like, "I heard you talking. Were you talking to someone?" He's like, "Oh no, I was just doing an episode of Smodcast solo." And she's like, well, why don't you talk to me? I'll talk to you. And he's like, motherfucker, I've been trying to get you on the mic for 5 years. She's like, no, I think I'm ready now. So he said the next episode of Smodcast would be her. But he answered maybe 4 questions last night. And it was fun that one of them was from the bride. So afterwards, I tweeted, show was great. Tagged him and then tagged his wife too and mentioned that at Shit the Bride Says asked the question. I liked the idea that maybe someone would see at Shit the Bride Says because of this. But yeah, he acknowledged that too, which was really nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And we were fucking close too because like the dinner thing, like I could have hit him with a tissue. It was crazy.
All right, we got 8 minutes, but I gotta pee. So
sure, of course.
Let's go pee, and then we'll come back. We'll do a quick King Corner, and then we'll wrap it up. All right.
Like it.
Awesome. All right.
Okay.
See you in a minute.
Okay.
Honey, come on over here, sugar buns. This machine just called me an asshole.
So Long Walk, fucking beautiful, right? I mean, just tragic. That like, I love those early Bachman books because it just has this like dystopian feeling to it. Even Rage, which doesn't take place in the future. You got this kid that's just like fed up with education.
Yeah,
and then you have The Long Walk, which is this like dystopian future. Running Man is a very dystopian future. Roadwork is kind of dystopian a little bit. And those 4 are like the earlier Bachman books,
which I have in this. I don't have the slipcover, but I bought that in a hardcover. And it's called The Bachman Books, and it's 4 early novels by Stephen King, is what they say. And there's what's interesting. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Please.
Well, the audio edition that I listened to began with an introduction about Bachman by Stephen King, like acknowledging it. Yeah. And this hardback that I got has a different introduction called "Why I Was Bachman" by Stephen King, and he in the one, it's like 10 years apart. I think they were written, these 2 things. And actually in the second one, he acknowledges that like he wasn't really thrilled with his attitude in the first one because he was pissed off about being outed, about being Richard Bachman. But anyway, so that was pretty cool for me, just I didn't know I was going to get that earlier introduction or that they would be different. And what I learned from the second one is the original title for Rage was Getting It On.
Getting It On, you dipshit motherfucker.
Yeah. We haven't finished Getting It On yet. But yeah, he just says very quickly, he's like, one day it occurred to me that I ought to publish Getting It On, a novel which Doubleday almost published 2 years before they published Carrie under a pseudonym. Anyway, so I was very taken by that idea that it was called Getting It On.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got some interesting perspective on that, and he sort of in the second introduction, he sort of takes back a lot of his attitude in the first one. He said one of the last thing I wanted to quote from that, maybe not, but I'll stop. I'll let you talk at least after this one. He says, I was not quite young enough when these stories were written to be able to dismiss them as juvenilia. On the other hand, I was still callow enough to believe in oversimple motivations, many of them painfully Freudian and unhappy endings. So spoke to the dystopian stuff, and they are pretty like simple stories. Like a guy freaks out, and Rage is like a guy freaks out and starts killing his classmates and teachers. The Long Walk is a bunch of I'm terrible at synopsizing things. So
it's honestly like the Hunger Games.
Yeah,
that's what I equate it to.
Without having to kill other people,
they don't have to kill each other. But it is about youth I want to think that it's his reaction to the Vietnam War. Where it's the whole gimmick on the long walk is you write an essay and you go to a recruitment center, which would be like an enlistment center or a draft center, and you sign up for the long walk. And if you get picked to do it, it's basically like it's a group of teenage boys who have to maintain this walk from New England into they start in New England, and they theoretically could walk all the way to Florida. But the whole gimmick is there's so many boys that join this competition, which is also monitored by the military, which is another reason which makes me think of the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
And these boys then are they're allowed to do whatever they want as long as they maintain a pace of 4 miles an hour. And they have to keep walking for 4 miles an hour. And if you fall below 4 miles an hour or you stop, you get a warning. And then you can pick it back up. And then you can get a second warning within so long. If you get another infraction, then it's a second warning. And if it's within so long, you get a third warning, and then you're shot, and then you're killed. Yeah. And it's called the long walk because they do that until there's one boy left. And then that boy, his prize is to get anything he wants for the rest of his life. And it's simple because it's about psychology. It's about like it's him internalizing and dealing with this trauma all of it's got to be about the Vietnam War. That's my take on it.
I tend not often to that stuff it didn't occur to me. That's the shorter way to say it, but that makes perfect sense, especially with how he talks about the Vietnam War and other, like in Dead Zone, where he's like, ate a bad hot dog.
Yep.
That's very that makes a lot of sense. And it's so simple, that simple premise that you laid out, and that is the whole book. Like the beginning of it, the main character like shows up. What is his name? I forget. Says goodbye to his mom and starts walking, and then at the end he's still walking.
And he's still walking, and it's so bleak and it's all of those great things that make awesome science fiction, which I would consider that science fiction, even though there's nothing really scientific about it. It's just that
it's not necessarily the future, right? But is it? Yeah,
I think it is, and it's. Yeah. I mean, it's like 1984 doesn't really strike me as like. I mean, I guess like the presence of Big Brother in the house is a little scientific, but it's just this bleak take on the future. And man, is it so? There's nothing really rewarding by the time you're done. Like where you're just like, oh, I feel so. That's just so nice. Like it's so it's tragic. It's like reading a Philip K. Dick novel if you've read any of his science fiction. A lot of his science fiction is just like.
Did he write?
Well, I mean, you know what? Blade Runner. Blade Runner is based on.
I've never read the book, but I could see.
Where it's just bleak, and oh man, god damn, do I love that story? That's so good because he wins, and he just and all he wants to do is keep walking.
Oh, he actually does win. I don't think I realized that. I think.
Oh no, he wins the competition.
Wow.
Man, spoiler alert again for a 40-year-old book. It's down to him and the general's illegitimate son.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that was a nice
who was the shoe-in the entire time.
Yeah, the guy that said nothing. Stebbins, is that it? No.
Yeah. And he, because it's implied that he's this illegitimate son of the general who is the leader of the nation and also the MC essentially of the long walk, this competition. And so man, the more I think about it, this is all Vietnam. And so this illegitimate son wants to win the competition so that he can expose that the general is his father. And he's walking. It's down to that kid who's walking out of spite, essentially.
Yeah.
And the main character who's walking out of, he has no other reason but to walk. Like he had, if I remember the story right, like it's implied like he had a future, like he could have not done this and would have been okay, you know. Which is like, that's one of the overarching commonalities of all the boys that are in the long walk is this is kind of like what they had to look forward to in life, was to try this, you know. And the main character, it's implied that he could have had something outside of the long walk, but he still chose to do this. And that's really all, like, he's trying to prove that he's, you know, he's just as deserving to win the long walk. And then the other kid is trying to like prove to this like totalitarian ruler that he's not as like as pure as he wants all of the other people of the nation to think that he is. And Stebbins, like, he sacrifices himself so the main character can win. And so he wins, and the general like comes riding up to him on a Jeep, like ready to congratulate him and to find out what the first thing is that he wants. Because again, you get anything you want on, like, you can demand anything you want from the general, like, for the rest of your life if you win the long walk. And he doesn't even acknowledge it. He just keeps walking because that's what he wants to do, is to just keep walking.
Yeah.
He doesn't want his prize. He doesn't want anything else. He just wants to keep going. And he's been broken by this competition. Like, he thought,
even though he won,
he's been broken by it. And like,
I want to read the last paragraph. It's super short, but it's beautiful, and it's so kind of like poetic that I didn't realize the specifics or what really happened, like you just laid it out. But this is kind of how it's actually written. So the main character's name is Garrity. So the crowd is shouting deliriously, "Garrity, Garrity!" And then he says, a hand on his shoulder. Garrity shook it off impatiently. The dark figure beckoned in the rain, beckoned for him to come and walk, to come and play the game. And it was time to get started. There were still so far to walk. Eyes blind, supplicating hands held out before him as if for alms. Garrity walked towards the dark figure, and when the hand touched his shoulder again, he somehow found the strength to run. It's kind of so badass, right?
Oh yeah, man. Because what you don't realize is, like, he's running by the end. That last sentence, he takes off running. He had been walking for like 5 days prior to that. Like there, he almost gives up. He almost loses. Like, he almost like gets his 3 warnings, you know?
Right. And there was that time where he saw like his girlfriend and his mom. And one dude, his name is escaping me, like, had to pull him away. He's like, you want like your brains all over their face to be the last thing, their last memory of you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because again, they're allowed to do whatever they want as long as they don't exceed their warnings. Where there's even like some kids, like it like they're like gladiators, like they're celebrated in this society that they live in. So like some of the boys like even have sex. Like there's women that are just like sitting on the side of the road, like willing to like just like have sex with them. And they save their warnings when they come up to towns. There's some of the guys that have saved their warnings to make sure they have all 3 of their warnings so they can get as far into having sex with these women as they can.
Yeah.
Like in this, you know, like it's one of these great examples of like, there's this minimal amount of exposition, like direct exposition. All of the exposition is given through your internal monologue of the main character. There's not any set dressing giving in the narration. It's just what the character thinks is all you know about the society. So that's it.
Yeah.
And it's just,
and all they're doing is walking. And
all they're doing is walking at 4 miles an hour. And that's it, you know? And,
all I have this one quick line that I want. There's not very many that struck me, but we could. I mean, it takes a whole book to get at some of this, but this one line sums up the torture of it all. Really, it says they would walk now until their bodies or minds shook apart, and that's basically what happens.
Yeah.
Like to the 100 different guys, like there's some in little clusters, and you learn their names, and they sometimes like will fall back or walk ahead to like talk to each other, and you learn some about those characters through their conversations. And there's some people who are just like, and there's the thing right from the beginning, it's like no three musketeers or no musketeers. Like we're not going to pal up because I can't be worried about how you're doing, because that means I die, you know?
Right.
But nonetheless, there's still relationships eventually kind of form, and people just die on their feet. And
this is all Vietnam. Like the more I'm hearing this, like
Yeah.
this like Vietnam thing is like just like solidifying. I just came up with that like just this tonight.
just thinking about it a lot. Yeah, and it's like you can picture soldiers walking through the jungle and stuff,
and that's what it and
getting
like
picked
even
off
though
randomly.
he was still broken. Like what was the point of winning if he doesn't get anything that he wants? Like the competition literally. And it's not like he's motivated by winning to get whatever he wants for the rest of his life. There is a couple pieces where he realizes he could make his life easier by winning.
Yeah. Like
or make his parents' life easier by winning. But he's not really motivated by that throughout the whole story. And at the end, though, it's just like, how sad is that he went through all this and watched all these other young men die that he tried not to become friends with, but ultimately did. And he doesn't even get to reap the spoils, which again is like, what a great analogy for the Vietnam War, you know, like, oh man, I have to.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just looking. There's like 2 other passages I found, and they all kind of relate to this. Obviously, he was talking about basically there's we haven't talked too much. There is a crowd. We talked about the girls you can have sex. So like people line up all throughout this long path to watch them and cheer them and root for their favorites to win and watch people get shot dead on the road and
that's the Hunger Games aspect of this competition.
Yeah, so they're saying they started to think of it as a cage, and then he's like, I think this is our main character, Garrett. He's like, I don't want to see it anymore. It's lousy and it's a cheat. You build it all around something, set yourself on something, and then you don't want it. Isn't it too bad the great truths are all such lies?
Man.
This is your favorite Stephen King Bachman book. Okay.
Bachman book. Like favorite Stephen King. I mean, any of the Dark Tower, like probably Wolves of the Kala would be my favorite Stephen King book of all time.
And before putting together the Vietnam thing you did just today, what was it? What is about it that made you love it so much, or what?
It just because it's so different. I mean, if it's one thing that can be said, especially about those first 4 early Bachman books, they're so different than other King work. You know what I mean? Like he was so focused that early on in his career. He was so focused on the supernatural and the psychic.
Yeah.
You know that Rage has no horror elements unless you want to count the like brutal shootings.
Right.
No horror elements, no supernatural elements whatsoever. Long Walk, science fiction. Again, no horror elements, no supernatural elements, no psychic elements, none of that.
Yeah.
The Running Man, same deal. I'm going to lump it's along the same. Those, while they're 2 drastically different stories, they are easily in the same universe. The Running Man and The Long Walk. And then you have Roadwork, which again is nothing supernatural, nothing psychic, nothing crazy. It's just a guy against society. Like he's just mad at the world that he lives in. So all 4 of these are so different than the audience that he had already built for him. Like, I mean, if you look at the first 4 Stephen King books and the first 4 Richard Bachman books, they arguably could have 2 drastically different audiences.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
And so, the ultimate answer, I like to say that I like what, I don't know where I ever got that take from, but like Bachman was Stephen King being able to say the things that he was worried would alienate his audience. Meaning he could say all the things that were too dark, like having a kid like do a school shooting, or a bunch of kids getting killed and all these things in the Long Walk.
Yeah.
Or if it's because he couldn't saturate his audience, saturate the market, and he wouldn't make as much money, which is like that seems to be the more truer answer, I think, to Richard Bachman. It's even the one that he kind of quotes now about Richard Bachman.
Yeah.
Which, if you like even those two prologues, there's a different take. Like there's a different own personal interpretation of Stephen King's own persona that he invented between those two prologues, right? And so if you watch interviews it's the same question sometimes asked over interviews that like might span multiple years. His answers will change just based on what he's thinking at that time, or what his, you know what I mean? And so, which is, I mean, that's how when he says, I don't write from an outline, I don't write like other authors, I just kind of like just write and it just comes out.
Mm-hmm.
I think he is like when people ask him, like, when you wrote this, what did you like? He's looking for that meaning just as much as they are from asking the question. So the answer that he's giving you, it's 100% genuine, but it's also only 100% genuine in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Like it could be 5 years later, the same question could get asked, and he's going to give you his genuine interpretation looking back at that minute when that question was asked on that moment from the past. So, man, it was so different than other King's works that I had read up to that point. And I read that when I was in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And it spoke to me. I like almost like Holden Caulfield speaks to young impressionable teenage boys. You know what I mean? Like, it's the same way, which I think I've heard when he's talked about The Long Walk. Maybe he even references that Holden Caulfield, because that's the Catcher in the Rye, right?
Yeah. And it's a lot of just like bitching about life and teenage angst.
Yeah. And I think that was kind of, I think if I would have been in the Catcher in the Rye mood, like, it would have struck me just as much there. Why is it doing that again? No, we're gonna stop all. We're just gonna exit this program. We're done with our bumpers.
Yeah. That's interesting. I didn't realize I thought maybe it's something you came across in your chronology. So that's interesting to know that you read it as a teenager, because it's about teenagers. So
no, I definitely read that in high school, and it just blew me away. Really, really, it just really struck a chord with me. And now, as an adult looking back, I definitely really think, and I mean, if they're Stephen King nerds, actually, he's come out and said that it's about the Vietnam War. If that's then great, then I was spot on.
Then you're right. Yeah.
I mean, come on, like, you just read the story. It just sounds like an allegory for the Vietnam War. Or for somebody that grew up through the Vietnam War and protested the Vietnam War, it really feels like a story that a person from that era would tell. It's just good. I finished The Shining, which is one of your favorite Stephen King books works.
That was the first one I ever read or listened to, I believe. Yeah, it was.
So I had said on an earlier episode, when I said I was reading The Shining again, because I have finally outgrown my iPod. So my iPod had all of my audio collection in toto. In particular,
that sounded like the Jean-Claude Van Damme thing where he's like, we're gonna focus on tonas. iPod on toto.
All of my audio collection fit on this iPod. It's 160 gigabyte like iPod Classic. And I love it. And Apple stopped making making the iPod Classic, which broke my heart because it was like, it was just such a perfect media device. It's not a perfect media device for streaming when, because you can't stream to it. And so if you're paying for streaming services to a device that you can't stream to, like, then why would people buy your streaming services?
Yeah.
Right. Which broke my heart. And then in amidst that, like, I switched computers. So my iTunes library, like, I had to like give up my iTunes library, and like, I'm still working on rebuilding it. Anyways, my Stephen King chronology was only up to like a certain point, and I finally was ready to move on. And so I have on my new phone, I have all of the current Stephen King books all the way up until Sleeping Beauties. I don't have Sleeping Beauties on here, which that just came out this year.
That's exciting.
That's the book that he wrote with his son, Joel. I think it's him and Joel wrote Sleeping Beauties. So, but I have all the books prior to Sleeping Beauties are on my phone after. Well, I guess it's from starting with Wind Through the Keyhole, which was 2012, maybe.
I'm not familiar with that one. I mean, I've heard that title.
It's a Dark Tower book. It was like an after the fact Dark Tower book. Anyways, so I'm on this, like, I'm about to transition from my iPod onto this, like, the end of the chronology. Like, I'm about to be caught up with Stephen King. Like, before the end of 2018, I expect to be caught up with Stephen King.
Wow.
Which, it's been a journey, let me tell you.
Hell yeah. It's years and
long.
How many books, like
so many. So many books.
Oh my God.
But one of the first book on the next list, on the next batch, is Dr. Sleep, which is the sequel to The Shining.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, before I transition, because The Shining is like his like third book, right? Or second book.
So it's Carrie, Salem's Lot. Maybe The Shining, yeah.
And then The Shining. So third book, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was like super early in my career. The only exposure I had to that was the Stanley Kubrick movie up until I listened to the audiobook. And then I listened to the audiobook, and I was probably eating a lot of cake, and it just really didn't make a huge impact on me. Like, because I still had the movie in my head,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So this time I was really focused on listening to it and really Jesus Christ. He was worried about Pet Sematary not getting published because it was just so gruesome. The Shining is fucking horrific. Like, and as far as a ghost story goes, like, it's really terrifying. Like, when the ghosts of the hotel are finally making themselves known to, like, Danny and to the wife, and they just start popping out every time they turn a corner. There's like another ghost of the hotel there, like, ready to get them. So gruesome, just like really, and a lot of implied gruesome stuff, and just, but really eloquently written. It is so poetic. It's just and Jesus, I can understand why Stephen King hates Stanley Kubrick's version of The Shining, because it is nothing like the book at all. Like,
well, I think we talked about this a little before. Like, the main thing really is the Jack character, as played by Jack Nicholson, always seems to have this hint of madness in him from the get-go.
From the very
you don't get the devolution of that guy.
Yeah, and I think that's Stephen King's biggest beef with Stanley Kubrick's
because
version.
like a lot of I don't know. For me, like I was very familiar with that. I listened to the book, knowing that like King hates the movie and all this.
Yeah,
and I was just like, this seems like a very faithful to me. And then I learned why, and I was like, okay. And then and there's like some stuff missing with the ending is a little different. Anyway, to me, they don't seem that different, but that's probably because I haven't delved into it enough. I like them both very much. But I think
Now,
that's the main thing.
did you jump to Doctor Sleep though? Like, did you go through The Shining and then do Doctor Sleep? Have you gone through that yet?
Yeah, I did actually. I'm not sure. It would have been 2013 maybe that I did The Shining. I don't know why I did it at the time. Like, I don't know. Usually for me, there's a very specific reason about stuff like that.
That's around the time that Doctor Sleep would have come out, and I think that would be knowing you as a person. I think that would be plenty motivation for you to go back through The Shining again, knowing that 30 years later he was releasing a sequel to the story.
Yeah, that makes some sense. So I sought out the audiobook. That was one of the first books I listened to. When I decided I was going to start listening to audiobooks, I listened to Blood Meridian, which we've talked about on this show, and one of Pump's favorite books, which is an incredible audiobook read by Richard Poe, written by Cormac McCarthy. And then I think The Shining was next, actually. And that one is read. The one I listened to, I think maybe same as you would have been. It came out in 2012, read by Campbell Scott, who's an actor you would know to see him in, like, I think of him from Singles, the Cameron Crowe movie, and he did an amazing job reading it. And then I didn't listen to Dr. Sleep right away, but within the same year, I think I did. Anyway, you have not yet done Dr. Sleep yet. That's
it's leading to the idea that I started Dr. Sleep today, like on my way home from work.
Yeah.
And I have to admit, like, this is so in all the, like, I've been doing the chronology now for, I want to say like 3 or 4 years. Right. And I'm up to Dr. Sleep. And Stephen King he recycles a lot of like similar things. And when you become a Dark Tower fan, that doesn't become a problem for you because you realize like it's all part of the same universe, and so there will be these similarities and these like coincidences. And Dr. Sleep is the first one so far that he has introduced a new level or a new kind of supernatural thing that does not fit into the rest of the universe for me yet. Like it's really it's so different than everything else he's done that it's a little off-putting to me. And I'm so early into the book, like I don't even want to talk about like what the specifics of it is, but it's just because it's probably going to get resolved, but it's just so drastically different with the steam and the like and like this like band of psychic / supernatural people, the Knot, and
yes,
and all of that is just like it's so weird to me because it does not feel like a Stephen King thing. That piece of it. Of course it's about, the opening part is about Danny and like Dick Halloran comes back and teaches him how to deal with like dead people and all that stuff. And he doesn't pull any punches like normal Stephen King. It's just that supernatural piece. Like, it's just a little different. And just because it's different doesn't mean it's wrong and doesn't mean it's bad. It's just different for me. So, but yeah, that's my King Corner. I'm excited. I'm on the tail end of my chronology and I'm excited to get through this. I have a whole batch of audiobooks that I'm excited to get to experience. When I had downloaded this last batch of the chronology, I was like, oh wow, when you finish this, like what are you going to listen to next? And I just downloaded a bunch of shit that was like outside of Stephen King that I'm really excited to get to. So
very cool.
Yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much all I had. I don't want to keep you any much later because
okay. Yeah, no, I'm good. This is very satisfying. I missed just kind of getting to, I don't know, just talk and get into like how you doing, how you feeling, get to say how I'm doing, how I'm feeling. And yeah, this has been really nice, really nice.
Absolutely, man. I always like man, it went too long with it just being the two of us. So we should keep that in mind in future. I mean, of course, we want to take advantage when there's people that are willing to come on and like opening that up, but maybe putting a regrouping episode somewhere in between some of those. So
Yeah, that's what you can expect in 2018 from
yeah.
And actually, the next episode
that you hear will be
listeners.
The best of 2017. So
yeah, and then we'll jump into 18, however we fucking feel like it.
Yeah. So
the books we were talking about, The Long Walk, which though it's a Richard Bachman book, is now just published by Stephen King these days. The Long Walk by Stephen King, as well as The Shining, and
Dr. Sleep.
Dr. Sleep. You can all get for fucking free, thanks to us. Again, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Well, right. Yeah. Sorry. One.
You get one of those for free by going to LWSD
or no, audibletrial.com.
Oh yeah, /LWSD. That's right.
Yeah.
I screwed it up.
No, that's easy. I've screwed up so many times. It's part of the deal. So if you want to listen to anyone, you can get those for free. One of those for free and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/LWSD. Hear the same versions we did. Fucking fantastic. At least The Shining and Long Walk are.
Yeah, and Dr. Sleep so far is I really like it. It's just different. So
yeah. Follow us on Twitter at LWSD Pod. We tweet shit out. Follow at Shit DeBride Says if you want to hear that stuff as it happens.
You can go to YouTube at LWSD Pod, and you can subscribe there for all of any YouTube videos that we reference in the show. We always build those into playlists.
You can see the Jean-Claude clip we talked about earlier. You can watch the podcast as the Google Hangouts that they are and see Palmer and I if you'd like.
Yeah. Yep. Just don't fucking troll us. God damn.
Oh, yeah.
Jesus, don't troll us. Jesus.
Yeah. No one actually listening into this far to the podcast is going to be like that. But we did experience some shitty stuff earlier today, but we rose above it and had a nice talk nonetheless. So
absolutely.
Thank you for listening, whoever you are.
Yeah.
For not giving us shit. Or you can give us shit, but it's good-natured shit.
And this could be the lost episode because
Talking
we don't know what's going to happen after I hit stop broadcast. It could not put a file on our
I got a backup. We'll have something.
All right, dude. Well, I'm going to stop this broadcast, but thanks so much. It's been a great episode.
Thank you. It was good catching up.
Absolutely. I'm going to order a pizza.
All right.
Awesome.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Cheers.
Yep. Adios. Thanks for listening.
Bye, Long Walkers.
Man, fucking technology.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. It just bit me in the ass tonight, and now I'm just like,
yeah.
Did you put them both in as fast as I can?